20-year-old tax researcher Nicole Alligood is suing the father of her child, mechanic Jeff Frazier, for unpaid child care expenses and medical bills. Jeff is countersuing, claiming Nicole has been harassing him and his new girlfriend.
Yeah, this is case number 355 on the calendar in the matter of Alligood versus Frazier. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Alligood, Mr. Frazier, according to what I read in your complaint, was your former boyfriend?
Yes.
And you have a child together?
Right.
You also lived together for a period of time?
Correct.
And it is your claim that after you decided to separate, you had an agreement with him that he would share all of the child care expenses with you?
Right.
And he did so for a while and then stopped?
Correct.
Now, he has never been adjudicated the father of this child in any court, so you do have an appointment, according to your complaint, in the family court to have an order of support entered.
Correct.
But he has not paid you in some time, and you want him to pay what he promised to pay, which is half the child's expenses.
Correct.
Mr. Frazier says that he tried to do the right thing, that you did have an agreement with him.
Yes, ma'am.
And the agreement was that he would split right down the middle child's expenses. He did do that for a while, but then he says that you stopped letting him see his daughter, and that also was part of the agreement, that he was going to see the child a certain number of days. You stopped letting him visit the days he was supposed to. He stopped paying. When you start letting him visit, he'll start paying.
Yes, ma'am.
And he's counterclaiming because he says that you're angry that he's got a new girlfriend and you've been harassing him.
That's much.
Going to find out. When did you live together, Miss Alligood?
I moved in about July of '02.
And how long did you stay together?
We were off and on for till May of '04.
When was the baby born?
March of '03.
Now let's get to this agreement that you had with regard to support.
Okay.
You do understand, Miss Alligood, that until Mr. Frazier is legally declared the father of this child, he doesn't have any legal responsibility. The only way he does have a legal obligation is if the two of you made a contract.
Okay.
And that contract can be a verbal contract, that after you separated, he would pay half, which according to both of you, he did.
Okay.
The issue is whether you breached the contract by not letting him see his daughter, because that was also, according to both of you, one of the terms of the oral contract. He got to visit, spend a certain amount of time with his daughter, and he was going to pay half of her support. He says you stopped letting him see her. Why did you do that?
Every time I called over there to speak to her, he always had friends over. They were drinking. I didn't want my daughter in that environment. I know when we were together, he was drinking every night, and when I left, he was always drinking.
So, Miss Alligood, when you made this arrangement with him to visit, according to you, when he lived with you, he drank every night.
Right, but when she went over there, I never seen him really drink toward the beginning, and then all of a sudden he started hanging out with his friends again, and he was always drinking, and I didn't like my daughter around that environment.
So now what you're saying is, when he was living with you, he was drinking.
Right.
But then when he left you, he stopped drinking.
No, he wasn't
and then
drinking
he started
as much.
again.
He wasn't drinking as much.
Something doesn't sound right, my dear. When did the new girlfriend come into the picture?
About 2.5 months ago, Your Honor.
And when did the visiting stop?
About 2 months ago, Your Honor.
That's not true.
Yes,
it
it
was
is.
only 4 weeks ago. I have proof. It was only about 4 weeks ago.
4 weeks ago was what?
When I found out that he was trying to get full custody of her.
Oh, there you go. And I assume, Miss Alligood, that that is going to be entertained by the court, who is going to be the primary physical caregiver for this child. Is that what's before the family court?
I haven't even went that far yet, Your Honor. The only thing I've did so far, I actually went down and put myself on child support. I done filed the paperwork for it and to put myself on that.
You don't have to show me papers. Did you have an oral contract that provided he would take care of half the child's expenses?
Right.
And he would see the child half the time?
Right.
And you stopped him from seeing the child half the time?
Right.
So he stopped paying support? Mm-hmm. That's it. Now, a court's going to have to decide, once there is an order of affiliation, an order of support, and who's going to have custody and who's going to have visitation. He would have continued to pay you, which he had been doing since you separated, if you hadn't terminated his visitation. Can't do that. Now, You want to tell me about the harassment?
Okay, on 6/19/04, I was having a get-together with some friends at my house, and Miss Alligood decided to come to my house, and I told her to leave. She refused to leave. I went back inside. She was outside blowing the horn constantly, just blowing it, blowing it, blowing it. I go out front to tell her to leave.
Where was the baby?
She wasn't with her at the moment. She was left her at somewhere. I don't know where she left her at.
She was with you.
So she kept blowing the horn. I come out there and, would you please leave? That's when she proceeded to ask me who's in the house. I said, it's not your business who's in my house. You don't live here anymore. So then that's when she proceeded to say, oh, is that somebody you're doing? She didn't say it that way. I said, yeah, Nicole, it is. And by then, that's when she opened her door and shoved it against me and hit me in my knee real bad. Then Sheriff was sitting in the park across from where we were. Right when she did that, the sheriff comes up, asked what was going on, and I told her. She asked me, do I want to put a trespassing warrant against Nicole? I said, yes, I do. So she wrote her a trespassing warrant. Told her not to come back. Yes, ma'am. And as she had Nicole sign that, Nicole balled it up and threw it on the ground and left.
Why did you go over there on the 19th?
I went to go pick up my child.
I don't believe that, because if that's the case, then the police would not have indicated that you were not to return to the property. If you've been over there and said, he has my child, he is not legally the father of this child, there's something going on in that house, the sheriff would not have issued you this trespass warrant.
I did say that. And the lady told him to go in there and get the baby, get all her stuff, and put her in her car. And Jeff, you can't say that she was over there, because she was, and then you scratched me, and then...
That's why I drank, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't take care of your children, Mr. Frazier, if you're not there to raise them. You have to find some other use for your organ.
And later today...
I turned around and there's a pit bull just charging towards me from about 150 feet away. It was very aggressive, very dominant posture. Quite frankly, I was terrified.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nicole Alligood says the father of her child, Jeff Frazier, owes for child care expenses. Jeff claims Nicole won't let him see his daughter.
Why did you go over there?
I went over to pick up my
listen to me.
child.
Were you supposed to? Is that what?
Yes.
Shh. What time was it that you went over there?
It was like 8:30, 9 o'clock somewhere.
At night?
Yes.
And why were you going there at 8:30 at 9 o'clock at night to pick up the child?
Because it was my night to have her. It was my night, my weekend, and he wasn't returning her. He wanted her to spend time with his friends, and when I called him to ask him if I can come pick her up, he said, that's fine, whatever, and hung up the phone on me. So I went over there to pick up my child. I pulled up, I beeped the horn for him to bring her out, and he said he's not bringing her out because she's sleeping. Well, why didn't you tell me that over the phone is what I said.
Okay.
And he said, I never told you to come over here. And I was like, that's not what you just told me on the phone. I'm here to pick up my child, now go in and get her.
Just a sec. Are you telling me that that was your night to have the child? Or is this something that you decided that you wanted to do because you felt as if he was having a party in his house?
No, it was my night. When we normally switch her, it's in the evening, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, sometimes in the morning on weekends.
What day of the week was this?
A Friday.
Was it supposed to be her weekend?
No, ma'am. She kept calling my house, Your Honor, aggravating me because she knew I had a get-together going on.
Where was the baby?
She was sleeping at the time.
So then you didn't tell me the truth before, sir.
Yeah, I forgot that was true, that I did have her at my house. I forgot about that, and that's why she came over after I hung up on her, and I told her that she was sleeping. She showed up anyway. She is correct on that, Your Honor.
All right, so incident number one, that's in her favor. She was supposed to come over. You expected her to come over. What's next?
Okay. The following day, after she got the trespassing warrant, I was at the fish store and I was trying to leave. I come outside and she's backed in right behind me, so I can't get out. I'm like, Nicole, please leave. I'm not gonna argue with you. Well, why don't you want to talk to me? I don't want to argue, Nicole. So I try backing out. She pulls the truck up forward. So I backed out up on the curb and shot around her truck. As I was going out, she was coming down the main drag and just ran me right up on the curb. I got off the curb, got on the main highway. She was going behind me, coming in front of me, slamming on the brakes so I can hit her. I have a little MR2. She have a Ford Expedition 4x4. Swerving in my lane with my daughter in the car, in the back seat.
What happened, madam?
That's not true, Your Honor. I remember the next day I was with a friend of mine the whole day, and a friend of mine took pictures of my neck where he had scratched me from the night before.
I'm past the night before. I'm at the fish store.
I never went to the fish store.
Do you have a police report?
He did not write a report because she was not there at the time.
What's
she was not
next?
there. That's it.
Okay. Listen, you can't bother him. It's not good for you. It's not good for your daughter. Got to put a period. Got to make peace with him and move on. I'm not making a judgment as to whether or not you followed him on the 20th of June, the day after this incident. You probably did. But I'm certainly not going to make a big deal about it because I don't think it is a big deal. I think what you have to do is you have to stop. He's got a new girlfriend. He's got a new life. He's got, according to you, a whole bunch of other children that he had before he met you, right?
Right.
How many?
There's 4 that's older than mine and 1 that's younger.
So that you knew he had a track record.
I only knew 2.
2 was enough. You still knew he had a track record. When did you find out there were 5?
I found out about the twins right before I got pregnant, and I found out about the one right after we broke up, that he cheated on me and had the next.
Just a second. So you knew about 4 before you got pregnant?
Right as I, yeah.
You knew about 4. So you knew that this was not somebody who you could count on. Because you could be sure that the other women who had these other children, and there were not just one woman, right?
Right.
Right. That they all thought that they were the one and only 2, just like she does.
No, I don't.
That's not my girlfriend, Your Honor.
I know.
She's not my girlfriend.
Perfect. She's the only smart one here.
Well, I do take care of my kids, Your Honor.
You don't take care of your children, Mr. Frazier, if you're not there to raise them.
Well, I try to see them, but they don't let me see them.
Mr. Frazier, you don't take care of your children if you're not there to raise them. You don't seed like you're a bee. You pollinate flowers and then move on. That's not being a father.
Yeah,
Do I make myself clear, sir? You have to find some other use for your organ. Your counterclaim, Mr. Frazier, is dismissed.
No problem.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The upsetting part that I can't see my daughter when I want to like it used to be.
He's not going to have a relationship with his daughter because he's going to choose not to.
What the future holds now, I don't know.
I actually would like to have a kind of open relationship to where if he wants his child, he can come get her, but I don't think it's going to happen.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Dinatelli versus Simonson, step forward, please.
Engineer J. Dinatelli is suing fellow dog owners, 23-year-old Jessica Simonson and her father, Eric Simonson, for injuries to his hand and legs. Jay says he suffered leash burns when Jessica's pit bull attacked his dogs.
Husband and wife?
Father-daughter.
Father-daughter. Never can tell. It's Hollywood. Whose dog is it?
He was mine.
What kind of dog was he?
Staffordshire Terrier.
That's a pit bull.
Yes, ma'am.
And how long did you have him?
2 years.
Where is he now?
I'm assuming he was given to another home after I released him to the SPCA when I had to move and get rid of him.
You had to move from where to where?
From the house I was living in into a different house, which did not allow me to keep him.
So you don't know where he is?
Correct.
How old are you?
23.
What's your father doing here?
He's property owner where the incident happened.
Okay. So you're walking your dogs on a leash.
Yes, Your Honor.
And out from nowhere comes a pit bull.
Yes, Your Honor.
You were injured. You want to tell me how that happened?
Sure. As you know, I was walking my dogs on the levee, and suddenly my dogs alerted to something in back of me. I turned around, and there's a pit bull just charging towards me from about 150 feet away. It was very aggressive. It ran straight up to my dogs, tail straight in the air, very dominant posture, and quite frankly, I was terrified. I yelled at the dog to go home, paid no attention to me. About a minute later, I saw Miss Simonson emerge. She yelled something at her dog. The dog paid no attention to her. I yelled at her to control your dog, and at that point, she strolled towards us, which I found kind of amazing that she wasn't sprinting down the levee. She grabbed for the dog on 2 or 3 different occasions, and every time she reached down to grab her dog, it would scoot away, and in the scuffle, the leashes got wrapped around me, and that's how I got my injuries.
Tell me about your injuries.
The injuries were both to my hand and to both of my legs. They were burn-type injuries produced by the retractable leash. I've got photos of them if you'd like.
I'd like to see them.
I was wearing walking shorts at the time, so both of my legs were bare. The worst injury was the injury to my pinky finger, but they were all pretty bad injuries. It caused me a lot of pain for a week, and the injury to my hand took a full month to heal. I have a permanent scar right now.
Can I see it, please? Step up. I see it.
There.
Right here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Frightening, scary, but you don't do hand commercials. Right?
I'm a professor, so I lecture for a living, but
Right.
no, I don't do hand commercials. You're right.
One of the other things I was interested in is that you indicate that when you made an investigation, you discovered that this was not the first complaint of this dog being out unattended.
That's correct, Your Honor.
You have any proof of that, sir?
Yes, I do.
When did this incident happen?
January 3rd of 2003, and those complaint reports show that there were 4 formal complaints filed against this dog and this owner within the previous 18 months.
Did you know that there had been prior violations filed, that the dog was out?
No, ma'am, I was not aware
But you
of that.
did.
I was not aware of 4 of them, no.
How many were you aware of?
2?
Two's enough. This dog hurt somebody else in the same kind of circumstances. White pit bull jumped the fence this morning. The complainant fell back and injured back trying to keep the dogs apart.
I was in LA at the time.
Who cares where you were? All right, I'll hear you.
My version of what happened was I let my dog out to go to the bathroom.
What do you mean you let your dog out to go to the bathroom?
I opened the sliding glass door to let him out into the backyard.
How many violations had you had at that time? 2, according to you?
That I'm aware of, yes.
I don't care what your version is. You just answered your own question. You just resolved this lawsuit. This lawsuit says that you were negligent, careless, and as a result of that, he was injured. Don't you get it? You knew you had a dog that twice caused other people to call and register complaints, and instead of putting your pants on and putting the dog on a leash, you opened the door and let him out.
I was out there with him.
Who cares? Do you get it, Mr. Simonson?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Good, I'm glad you both get it.
However, I disagree that the dog is potentially vicious. This dog is
I
never...
don't care what you believe. The dog caused injury to him. Don't be a fool. The dog was not within the control of his owner.
I agree with that, Your Honor.
Perfect. I don't know whether or not your injuries are worth $5,000, which is what you're suing for, but their stupidity is worth $5,000. And the lesson to be learned is worth $5,000, that when you have a dog that is capable of causing serious physical injury or death, you don't open the door and let the dog out to go to the bathroom alone. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Corey and Tammy Shanks are suing Corey's ex-girlfriend, Melissa Blankenship, for damaging his truck when she ran into a mailbox.
All rise.
This is case number 44 on the calendar in the matter of Shanks versus Blankenship. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Shanks, this lady is your former wife, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you are now back together and trying to reconcile.
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Blankenship was your girlfriend
Yes, ma'am.
for a brief period of time.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the complaint, although the complaint is written by your wife, really has to do with you. So we're going to find out exactly what it's all about. You claim that Miss Blankenship damaged a truck. It was a truck that belonged to you. She hit a mailbox or something with it, is that right?
Yes.
And you want her to pay for the damages to that truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Blankenship says that she did, in fact, have an accident with the truck, hit the mailbox, there was some minor damage, she told you about it, and at some point you told her to forget about it because you had moved her in with her children or child?
My child.
With her child into another house that you owned, and she relocated because you were together. Then when you decided to go back to your wife, she was told that she had to vacate the property immediately.
She had exactly a week and a half to
A week.
clear the vacancy.
And the suggestion is because you told her she had to get out of the house within a week, you told her to just forget about the damage to the truck. When were you divorced, Mr. Shanks?
I was getting ready to go through the divorce in June 2005.
When did you meet Miss Blankenship?
About the same time, about June.
Okay. And when did you purchase the second house?
Obtained the house around June, July, in between there.
And when did Miss Blankenship move into the house with her daughter?
When the house closed, and it was in August.
And that was at your suggestion?
Well,
You were together?
yes, but, Your Honor, it was more or less where she wanted to more or less move in. You know, she asked me to move in, And the stipulation was if she did move in, she was supposed to obtain the home, take care of everything while I was gone since I'm an over-the-road truck driver, and she was going to start up a daycare with herself and her witness.
So what you're saying is she moved into the house, but she was supposed to pay all the bills in the house?
No.
From the daycare?
No, it was more or less like she wanted to start up the daycare.
Well, what did that have to do with you, Mr. Shanks?
Well, really, it doesn't, Your Honor.
Well, so then I'm not interested in it if it doesn't have anything to do with you. Okay, so she moved into the house, and when you weren't on the road in your truck, where did you stay?
I only stayed in that home maybe one night.
With her?
Yes, one night.
And you shared a room?
Yes.
Before she moved into the house, where was she living?
She was living in an apartment complex.
How many nights did you spend there?
Maybe 2 at the most, ma'am.
And when you stayed there, did you share a room?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you purchased this new house, was it the idea that you would be living there as a family when you weren't on the road?
No, ma'am.
What was the idea of the new house, sir?
The idea of the new home is I wanted to move away from my old home state where I used to live at, and I just wanted to start over myself. I mean, the only reason I let Miss Blankenship move in was the idea of her wanting to start up the daycare.
Mr. Shanks, you're having second thoughts about this, sir, because of the lady standing next to you. But your conversation to me doesn't make sense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't make sense that you bought another house in another area and Miss Blankenship was moving in there to start a daycare center. That doesn't make sense, sir. I haven't even asked her anything. So don't try to pull my leg. I don't like it. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
If you had second thoughts about Miss Blankenship and your relationship and you wanted to go home to your wife, that's fine. But don't lie. I don't like it. Now let's get back to the truck. At the time that Miss Blankenship damaged the truck, she called you. Where were you?
I was out on the road.
And what did she tell you?
That the truck was hit by the mailbox.
No, she didn't say that at all. Don't be a wise guy. What did she tell you?
She told me she hit the mailbox.
That she hit the mailbox, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she apologize?
Yes, she was very apologetic to it, yes.
Now, at that time, had you gone back to your wife yet?
No.
Did you tell her that you were thinking about going back to your wife?
No.
Had you told her that she had to move her property out?
I told her, when I told her to move out the property, and this is going to bring up the daycare again, that she wasn't getting the daycare going and the home wasn't being taken care of.
When she used your truck, what was she using it for?
In the moving process, I think.
So you were told her to move, in or out?
It was, I'm pretty sure it was in, ma'am.
Were you moving in or out when you were using the truck?
Actually, when I wrecked the truck, he was in town. He asked me to go get jumper cables, I think it was, so he could get his truck jumped because the batteries went dead. So he was in town.
Where was he in town?
He was over by the apartment complex that I used to live at, and I had already moved into the home.
Okay. So that was sometime in August?
Yes.
Now, after you had this problem with the truck, you went into a mailbox.
Right.
Did he ever spend the night with you in the house again?
Yes.
How many times?
I think he was there one more night, and then he left.
After the damage to the truck?
After the damage to the pickup.
Now, did you see the damage to the truck, Mr. Shanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was the truck when you saw it?
I'm pretty sure it was at the apartment complex, ma'am.
Apartment complex or the house?
I think it was at the apartment complex.
So it was drivable?
Yes, it was drivable.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding your seeing it at the apartment complex, sir.
I was,
What were you doing there? What were you doing there?
I would think I was getting ready to leave, but I can't recollect it, you know? I mean,
Getting ready to leave what?
in the truck, in my semi.
You mean getting ready to leave her apartment?
Yes, the semi was parked at the apartment.
At her apartment?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did you say to Miss Blankenship, sir, when she told you that she had had this accident with the truck, and you saw the truck, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you say?
I told her, I said it needs to be replaced, you need to get it fixed, and it needs to be done. I mean, I was really upset about my truck being wrecked.
Well, it wasn't wrecked, sir, because you said you saw it at the apartment complex. So it wasn't wrecked, it was drivable.
Yes, it was drivable, but the way them Dodges are set up and everything, they've got plastic and little sheet metal and all that stuff on them anymore, and just hitting the mailbox did do a lot of damage to the front of that truck. I mean, it's very noticeable.
You want to show me a picture of it, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
There's also pictures in the mailbox post and at the house where the mailbox sits.
Truck isn't wrecked, sir. It's got a little damage on it. There's some bumper scratches. Big deal.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So why are you here? He ruined her life.
She spent 2 nights in her car because she had nowhere to go.
And later today...
Did she tell you the child was yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And the paternity test said the child could not have been yours?
I wasn't there when he swabbed my daughter's mouth. As far as I'm concerned, he could have, I don't know.
He could have.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Corey and Tammy Shanks say Corey's ex-girlfriend, Melissa Blankenship, ran his Dodge truck into a mailbox. Melissa is countersuing for the return of furniture.
You see what your problem is, sir? First, you moved her out of her apartment with her child into a house that you had purchased. And the plan was for you to live there when you weren't on the road. That was the plan. I mean, that's clear. There's no question about that. Then you decide to get back with your wife. And your wife is irritated that the truck is damaged. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's too bad. What are you mad at her for?
I'm not, ma'am.
Well, you shouldn't be. He's the one who disrupted her life, moved her out of her apartment into a house, and then told her she had to move because he was going back with you. Don't you see who the villain here is? It's not her. Oh, you get it? Did I have to explain that to you? No. So why are you here? Over a couple of $100 damage to a truck? He ruined her life. That's not her fault. That's his fault. Probably yours, too. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe her when she says that the reason she was moving your truck was because you asked her to go get jumper cables with your truck.
I can't remember that far back, Your Honor.
Well, if you can't remember, she does.
I know the truck was driven without my permission.
That's not true. If you asked her to go get jumper cables, she used your truck. She was living in your house. You were sleeping with her. You had an intimate relationship. Get over it. You made a mistake. And grow up. Now, what stuff did she leave behind in the house?
I've got pictures of the furniture.
And where is the furniture that she left behind?
Is that
Take your hands out of your pockets.
Is that the address of the home in St. Charles?
Where do you want him to deliver your property? He's going to deliver it. He caused the problem, right?
Yes, ma'am.
To Mary's apartment. Miss Kelly's apartment.
All of her property goes back to her. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And you make sure that it gets there. It's your responsibility. You had a change of heart, sir. You have to behave like a grown-up. Just because you act irresponsibly most of the time with the women in your life doesn't mean you're going to act irresponsibly here. I mean, I read the papers. You relocated this lady and her child with a promise that you were going to have a life together, that she was going to start a business in the home. And because you had a change of heart, you told her, sorry, you have to move. Now, you moved once, now you have to move again. Where did you move to? Back to the complex?
No, I had lost my apartment because of him promising we were going to have a life together.
Where are you living now?
I've relocated closer to home, closer to my parents.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I say something?
Yes.
She spent 2 nights in her car because she had nowhere to go.
My daughter stayed with a friend because I did not want to be a burden on anyone else. I let my daughter stay so she would not be without.
How old is she?
She's 11. She was 10 at the time.
You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
She gets all of her property back. Make sure that that happens, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care of the truck yourself. It's the least you could do. And tell your wife to get over it. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He got back with his wife. Tammy was mad because he got with me. We share a life together. She didn't like the fact that I had permission to have the truck, something that she could never, ever have.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Rhodes versus Nelson. Step forward, please.
Rachel Rhodes is suing her ex-boyfriend, Eric Nelson, for the return of payments and repair costs for a vehicle he financed. Eric says the car was repossessed because Rachel missed payments.
Miss Rose, Mr. Nelson is former boyfriend of yours.
Correct.
And he financed a car. He was responsible for the payments on the car, but it was your car.
Correct.
The agreement was you were to make the payments on the car. When the car was paid off, it would be yours.
Correct.
Well, what happened is that you missed some payments on the car. Couple, 2, maybe 3. And the car was repossessed by the company. Is that right so far?
So far, I made a payment. I had placed it on the drop box.
I don't want to hear that you made the payment. You placed it on the drop box. They didn't cash the check, but then you missed 2 more payments. You missed payments, correct?
Yes.
And the car was repossessed. You called up the company, and the company said, well, if you make up all the payments that you missed, we'll give you the car back. You were prepared to make up the payments, right?
Correct.
But Mr. Nelson says, I'm not going to sign off on you getting the car back because I don't trust that you're going to continue to make the payments on the car. Let them take back the car. I'll make up the missed payments, and I just want this off my record so I don't have to worry about it anymore. So you're suing him for not making it easy for you to get the car back from the company. That's your lawsuit?
Yes.
That's not a lawsuit, Ms. Rhodes.
Well, Your Honor, I have the paperwork pertaining to the money order that I had purchased and I had put in the drop box. After the 29th of December, I had called and checked the status of the money order. The money order had not been cashed.
Ms. Rhodes, you don't seem to get me. After you had this alleged mishap with a money order that you allegedly put in a drop box at the car company, which they didn't cash, you then missed 2 more payments.
Ma'am, the money order was for $250.
You then missed, according to your own statement, 2 more payments because you had trouble. Is that correct?
No, it's not correct.
Well, that's what you wrote here. That's what you wrote here. How many more months of payments did you miss?
I only missed, to my knowledge, I missed 3 payments, which is a month worth of payments.
You missed 3 payments, and the car was repossessed.
That's correct, but as far as I know, I thought the payments were current.
Well, they weren't current, and you have no cause of action against Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson doesn't have to make it easy for you to get your car back from the company. Your responsibility is to see to it that the payments are made on time, and they are made to the right place, and to check and see if they were cashed, and to check and see that his credit is not at risk. That's your job. He was being very nice to you, but things transpired, which we'll get to in a moment, because you have a counterclaim that suggested to him that you were not particularly a trustworthy person. So he wasn't going to make it easy for you to get the car back, and he has no legal obligation to do that. And this is, of course, a court of law. And in a court of law, he is not under legal obligation to get you your car back from the finance company after you missed, I don't care if you missed 1 payment. According to you, you missed 3.
Well, can I say this?
Sure.
If I wasn't such a trustworthy person, I was able to pay the money to get the car back, but he didn't want to do that. But he told me that I can give him the $500 so that I can drive another car of his that he had parked.
Well, let me tell you why he thinks that you're not particularly a trustworthy person. He has a counterclaim for the missed payments that he had to make up.
Yes, ma'am.
But more importantly, his counterclaim asks for money for a paternity test because you had a child, which he believed to be his child. He put his name on the child's birth certificate. He paid child support. I don't know whether he saw the child regularly.
He paid child support? No.
Did you pay any child support, sir, to her?
No, ma'am, I haven't paid to her because I have a lawyer at this time.
Were you living together when the child was born?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you the child was yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And you believed her?
Yes, ma'am.
And you took a paternity test?
Yes, ma'am.
And the paternity test said the child could not have been yours?
0% probability.
That's why he doesn't trust you.
Okay. Can I say this?
Yes.
He took a paternity test. I didn't know nothing about the paternity test. I wasn't there when he swabbed my daughter's mouth. I don't know. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he could have, I don't know.
He could have, but I think you certainly have to go to court to find out. Have you been to court yet?
Yes, we've been to court.
And what happened when you went to court?
We went to court, and by him signing the paternity affidavit, they stated that if it is his child or if it's not his child, that he needs to pay
child support. So the court where you are said Mr. Nelson is out of luck because he was told that the child was his by you, and because he signed the affidavit of paternity based on what you told him, he's going to pay child support whether the child is his or not. That's what you just told me.
I mean, that's what they said.
That's what you just told me that he was told.
Yes.
That wouldn't make me happy.
No.
That wouldn't make me believe that you are a particularly trustworthy person. Sir, this was not a court-ordered blood test, is that right?
No, ma'am.
You took the child yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you have to proceed through the courts. You hired an attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
I assume that's the first smart thing that you did.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And do you have a court date?
Yes, I do.
When?
My lawyer has gotten us a court date to go back to court on May the 15th, so we could rescind the paternity affidavit that was already filed against me.
Well, at that point, Ms. Rhodes, the baby, as well as you, will be sent to a laboratory to take a paternity test. And at that time, with all 3 parties present, the court will at least be satisfied that the test is done properly. Ms. Rhodes at this point knows that she's on notice, that if there is a possibility that you are not the biological father of this child, that is not a good thing. So I suggest you start searching in memory to figure out if there's any possibility that he's not the father.
Okay.
Got it?
Got it.
Good. So you have no cause of action against him for the car. He doesn't have to assist you in getting the car back from the finance company. If you can convince them to give the car to you, that's super. And if you can't, you shouldn't have missed the payments which caused it to be repossessed. Now, the defendant's counterclaim is granted in the amount of $275, not for the paternity test, sir, because the paternity test was not an authorized test and it was not done by the courts. If you had been forced to pay for a paternity test through the courts, I might have entertained your application if it was done with all three parties present. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. $275 on the counterclaim. Your claim is dismissed, Miss Rhodes.
Maintenance man West Baum is suing his ex-wife, property manager Lisa Baum, for filing false charges against him. Lisa claims West violated a restraining order.
Come to order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. That's case number 463 on the calendar in the matter of Baum versus Baum. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Baum, the defendant is your former wife, and it is your claim that she filed a false charge of violating a protective order against you. You want to be compensated for being taken into custody and those false charges. And Ms. Baum said she did not, that you did, in fact, violate a protective order, and she did not accuse you of any crime. She just merely did what she was supposed to do, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When were you and the defendant married?
1984.
And when were you divorced?
1999.
And you have two children?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
17 and 16.
When you divorced, who got custody of the children?
I did.
Was that after a trial or by agreement?
Trial.
And these are your two girls?
Yes, ma'am.
How long did the girls live with you?
Up till 2003.
So far, are those dates correct?
No, ma'am.
He got custody of the children in 1999?
Yes, ma'am.
And they lived with him until what year?
2002.
What month?
November.
What happened in 2002?
I received a call from him, and he said Katrina wanted to come live with me, so I went and got her. Elizabeth stayed with her dad.
So Katrina, one child came to live with you in November. That's
Yes,
Katrina. Did there come a time when Elizabeth went to live with her mother?
Only through why we're here. She went to do a visitation. At that point in time, her mother went to the court and filed a protective order saying that I gave her a black eye.
When was that?
August of 2002. No, 2003, I'm sorry.
And so from August of 2003 until what time, what month and year did Elizabeth stay with you?
December of 2004.
And what happened in December of 2004?
On December 1st, Katrina and I had gotten into an argument that morning, and the girls proceeded to go to school. Elizabeth went to school and decided she didn't want to be with me anymore, so she left school grounds without anybody's permission, got a ride to her dad's work, and she's been there ever since.
When did you find out that she was missing?
Like 30 minutes. I called the school because I kind of had an idea. I had called Elizabeth's cell phone.
Well, if you had an idea, then something more happened. Then you had an argument with Katrina, Miss Baum.
No, ma'am, it was just an
Well,
argument.
then why, if you had an argument with one child, why would you think that something happened to your other child?
Because Elizabeth went to the school and told them that she wanted Child Protective Services called.
Against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, so well, that would give you a clue.
But it was unfound.
Just a second. But that would give you a clue that there was trouble. And that all happened on December 1st.
Yes, ma'am.
Step up. You're 17, Elizabeth?
Yes, ma'am.
You live with your father?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened in your house December 1st?
December 1st, my sister, we got ready for school and came downstairs, and my sister and my biological mother had gotten into an argument. My biological mother told my sister that she was going to strangle her, and that was not the first time she has put her hands on my sister. And so we went to school. She had called my cell phone. We were at the bus stop.
Well, what did you say to your mother when she said that? Did you say anything?
I just looked at her and was like, "No, you're not." And then so we left the house and went to the bus stop, and she called my cell phone and told me to tell my sister to come back home because she has to pack her things and leave. Then we got on the bus and she called my cell phone back and Katie was on the bus with me. She didn't go home, so she was like, I'm coming to pick her up from school to bring her back home to pack her things and leave. So when I told Katie that, she started crying, and we got to school.
So far, is that right, Katie?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
So we got to school, and the senior administrator was upstairs, and she saw that Katie was crying, and she asked me what happened. And I was telling her what happened. Then she took us down to the guidance office, and the resource officer is the one that said he was going to call Child Protective Services.
And who called your father?
I did later that day.
Where were you?
It was right after 3rd block, and...
You mean in school?
Right. And I had a voicemail on my phone, a vulgar voicemail, saying that she was going to kill me too, and that everything was going to come back on me.
You mean it was from your mother?
Right. Yes, ma'am. She was going to be home when I got home, and I was going to get what's coming to me. So after I listened to that message, I called my father and told him what happened. And I guess at that point, it was just, I couldn't take it anymore.
Now, Mr. Baum, who contacted you, sir? The police? Or did you contact the police that day?
Well, she called me at work, and I knew I had a protective order against me.
When was that protective order granted?
I have it here in my documents.
Can I have it, please?
Here's a series of protective orders from where it started to where I got custody. But that particular day...
Just 1 second, sir. Why did you file for an initial protective order, Mrs. Baum?
When I picked Elizabeth up, she had a black eye.
When was that?
August of 2003.
Yes?
And I asked her what happened. She told me a speaker fell on her. I didn't believe that. So we talked more throughout the weekend, and then she told me her dad punched her for lying and having people in his house that stole some stuff from him. So I went to the magistrate. A protective order was issued. We went to court, and the judge told him that he had to take an anger management class.
You went to the police, Mrs. Baum, is that right, on December the 1st or the 2nd?
The 1st.
And do you have the application that you filled out for the violation of the protective order?
There is no application.
What did you tell the magistrate?
I told the magistrate, I showed him a copy of the current protective order that says that he may have telephone contact with the children and physical contact that I approve. I told the magistrate that Elizabeth was at his house, that she does not have permission to be there. If she wants to live with her father, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it.
Just a minute. What you told the judge, according to you,
the magistrate.
That's a judge.
Oh, okay.
Was that, here's the protective order, my daughter is there, and she's not there with my permission.
Correct.
That's what you told him?
Yes, ma'am.
Period.
Yes, ma'am.
Based upon that, he issued an arrest warrant.
Yes, ma'am.
How come you didn't tell the judge, Miss Baum, that your daughter had run away, that she had called Child Protective Services against you? All of that you knew by that time.
Your Honor, I did. I told the magistrate the whole story of the whole day.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
You went to file a violation of a protective order, and you knew your daughter wasn't in danger. You knew she wasn't at risk. You knew you had had a fight with her that day. You knew that she had gone to the school and caused them to call Child Protective Services. And knowing all of that, for some bizarre reason, you elected, instead of going to the family court to try to get the matter resolved, somehow in the family court, letting the situation cool down for a day, seeing how you could resolve it with your daughter, you decided to go in to file a violation of a 6-month-old protective order. And I don't understand what was your motivation.
Your Honor, my issue wasn't with Elizabeth at all that day. It was with my other one.
I understand that your initial problem was with your other daughter, but it was Elizabeth who spoke to the guidance counselor. It was Elizabeth who caused them to contact Child Protective Services, who ultimately contacted you and started all the trouble for you. And you reacted to that, Mrs. Baum, by going to court, and instead of letting things settle down with your 2 girls, going to court and making trouble for your ex-husband.
No, that's
exactly what you did. Oh, yes, that is exactly what you did. Your former husband is suing you for $2,000. He said he was arrested. How long were you taken into custody for, sir?
I was released that day. But if I may add on that?
Yeah.
Prior to that, my daughter called me about 12:30 that day, and because where they live is in a separate city, I told her to call the Virginia Beach Police Department to find out what they would have her do, and they said, come see me. So she got a ride to home, and she got a ride from home to my work. At that point, I got a couple calls on my cell phone. I'm not sure if I responded to a call, if I called her back and said, hey, she's here with me, but do not come up here and cause any trouble. After work, we'll settle this, we'll go through it and find out what's going on and get to the bottom of this. Later that night, she called her, Elizabeth, up. My ex called her Elizabeth up and said, I want your cell phone and your key. She came over to the house and got the cell phone and her key to the house.
Did you go to his house?
I went to the parking lot next door at like 7 o'clock at night to pick up the cell phone that's in my name and my house key.
But not your daughter?
No, she didn't.
No, why? No, because...
Your Honor, I can't pick her up and put her in the car.
Because she didn't want to go home with you.
That's right. So,
and if you, are you telling me, are you suggesting to me that this magistrate before whom you appeared to get a protective order, you told him that your daughter didn't want to go home with you, she was okay with her father, and you went and you got your cell phone because you were worried she would make telephone calls. We're worried about her. Worried that she would make telephone calls.
Your Honor,
You're absolutely right, sir. It was vicious and it was vindictive.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
after leaving the hospital, Mr. Osborne walked to a nearby Pizza Hut to smoke a cigarette and drink a pop.
Did you do that, Mr. Osborne?
Yes, I did.
With a collapsed lung?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. West Baum says his ex-wife, Lisa Baum, falsely accused him of violating a protective order. West says because of Lisa's actions, he was arrested.
Now, your motivation for going to the judge for a violation of protective order, I believe, was vicious and vindictive and had absolutely nothing to do with the safety of your child. Because your actions that day belie the fact that it had anything to do with the safety of your child, because you went there alone to get your key and your cell phone. And if you actually had fear for your child's safety, you would have called the police and said, please come with me, I have to go get my daughter, she is in danger. You didn't do that.
I did do that. We went to his employment to get her with the police.
They had me arrested.
Just a second.
No, to pick up my daughter. I didn't care what happened to him.
Just a second. And what happened when you went there?
They weren't there. Your Honor, I didn't get any help from the police.
You didn't need any help getting the key and the cell phone, only your daughter. Judgment for the plaintiff and the amount requested, $2,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Now I married a beautiful wife, and she has a problem with it.
I left messages with him, you know, call me, let's work this out, and I don't get any reply. I think he's afraid of what his wife will say.
She didn't want me, and she didn't want nobody else to have me.
No, that's not true.
It's the first time that I've gotten justice in the court system for a long time. I feel good.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Osborne versus Lacey. Step forward, please.
Truck driver Charles Osborne is suing his former friend, writer Michael Lacey, for injuries due to a car accident. Charles says he was a backseat passenger when Michael choked on coffee and drove his car off the road.
Mr. Osborne.
Yes, ma'am.
You were a passenger in a car that was being driven by Mr. Lacey, according to your complaint. I don't know where you gentlemen were on your way to, but you're going to tell me you were sitting in the back seat. According to what I read, there was an accident, you were injured, and you want to be compensated for your medical bills, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Mr. Lacey says this was an accident and you weren't wearing your seatbelt and whatever. Take care of your own medical expenses.
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing in Mr. Lacey's car?
Mr. Lacey had been commandeered by my business partner, Frank Owen, to drive us to Rushville, to small claims court.
Who had to be in small claims court?
Mr. Owen did.
And what happened, sir?
We were eastbound on Route 52, and Mr. Lacey had just passed a car doing about 58, 60 miles an hour. And he had taken a drink of coffee at the time, and when he did, he choked on the coffee. He held the accelerator to the floor. We went off to the side of the road. Frank was in the front seat. He tried to grab the wheel to hold it on the road. And I had pulled my seatbelt off quick and tried to jump over the seat to grab the wheel. But at that time, when we went off the road, and the car ended up going over some ravines and went catty-corner into a telephone pole, which hit like the rear door. And I slammed the door, knocked the power window buttons out of the door, broke the window out with my head. And the next time we finally stopped, dead, and the airbag went off, and Mr. Lacey turned around to me and he said, I believe we were in an automobile accident.
I believe you were right. Can I see those pictures? I'm anxious to see.
Sure.
So I assume that
It's the same paper. So
It's the same paper.
His looks
okay.
Can't believe I'm going to get paid for reading the paper. So this says that both passengers, both you and Mr. Owen, were taken to the hospital. Is that right?
Yes.
What were the extent of your injuries?
I had a collapsed lung, and I still have the problem. I can move my head over this far on the left, and I can come all the way over on the right, but I still can't move it completely right.
Well, what would you have to move it all the way over for? What particular
I
exercise?
probably wouldn't unless I was looking at
I'm just curious.
I don't know, Your Honor.
Wait. Doctor, it hurts when I do this.
No,
Don't
I know.
do that.
No, I'm just curious. What is it in your life, in your work or social life or whatever, that would require you to go all the way over on you?
Well, I'm a truck driver, and I have to leave my head out the window a lot of times to see the cars.
Well, you go out like this. You don't go down like this, right?
Well, I go like this to
Yeah,
leave
you
it.
go right just like that. That's enough.
Okay. All right.
Seems to me that's enough.
Okay.
So you don't have any long-term disability. You had some short-term problems. Let me
Yes.
see that medical bills, please,
Okay.
and what the doctor had to say about you.
Have an ambulance bill and the hospital bill and the doctor bill.
Okay.
But the one's gone into collection, so but they're all together same dates.
Okay, Mr. Lacey, why shouldn't you be responsible for this? Didn't you have insurance?
I did not have insurance. It had lapsed.
Oh, Mr. Lacey, that's a big problem for you, sir.
Yes, I realize that, Your Honor.
Well, then why don't you think that you personally should be responsible for this? You were at fault in this accident.
I was at fault in the accident, but the plaintiff here says that he was injured and he was out of the car walking around when I regained consciousness from the airbag and did not exhibit any signs of trauma until the ambulance arrived. And then when the ambulance did arrive, he immediately went into a convulsed state and, made it sound like there was something wrong. And the rest of us were all walking around. He had been walking around.
Well, Mr. Owen was taken to the hospital, sir.
Mr. Owen was not taken to the hospital.
According to this, he was.
He was not.
Well, he was. And you're responsible. And if he wanted to go and get himself checked out, that's his prerogative. Mr. Osborne, you're suing for $5,000, sir. Why?
The hospital bills were $2,100.
Correct.
I was off work for 3 weeks, and I'm a percentage driver. I'm paid average about $820 a week.
Well, you have to show me something that indicates to me, sir, that you received medical treatment during the course of those 3 weeks, and the reason that you were out of work for 3 weeks was as a result of your injuries. Do you have medical records?
No, I don't. I didn't go see the doctor afterwards.
Well, that's unfortunate, sir. If I were out of work for 3 weeks, I would go see a doctor. You want to say anything?
Yes, I would, Your Honor. After leaving the hospital, Mr. Osborne walked to a nearby Pizza Hut to smoke a cigarette and drink a pop.
Did you do that, Mr. Osborne?
Yes, I did.
With a collapsed lung?
I did walk like I was jogging the 500, but I made it over there.
I mean, is what you're telling me, with a collapsed lung, you went over, you had a drink and a cigarette?
I tried to have the cigarette. I had the drive.
All right. Mr. Lacey, you are responsible minimally for his medical bills. Do you understand this?
Yes, ma'am.
Otherwise was an accident, and I don't think there was anything irresponsible other than the fact that perhaps you were drinking a cup of coffee and you choked on it. Maybe you should just concentrate on your driving. So you are responsible for his medical bills, not $5,000 for his being out of work, for his being uncomfortable, for whatever else. I don't have any proof of that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,100. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
23-year-old Nicole Hendershot is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old Kevin Gleason, for unauthorized use of her credit card and unpaid loans.
Order. All rise. This is case number 15 on the calendar in the matter of Hendershot versus Gleason. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Thanks, Bert.
You're welcome.
All right, Miss Hendershot, this used to be your boyfriend. And your complaint is that you made 2 loans to him. One was by giving him your credit card and allowing him to make some purchases on it. And then, since he wasn't paying you back, that you would get your money back as if he had a new job. And a new job needed new clothes. So he asked if you would loan him the money for some new clothes. You bought him $3,000 worth of clothes, and he paid you back nada. That's not the outfit she bought you, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
It's not GQ.
Kind of early gangster.
Mr. Gleason says that you were very, very nice to him, and all of the things that he purchased were gifts. How old are you, Miss Hendershot?
23.
Do you work?
Yep, full time.
What kind of job do you have?
Inventory manager at a car dealership.
You've been there for how long?
A year and a couple months.
How much do you earn annually?
Probably about $32,000.
Nice. You live by yourself?
I live with family.
You pay rent?
No.
What do you mean you live with a family?
I live with my grandparents.
Oh, so you don't pay rent?
I don't pay rent.
Eventually, you're going to have to do that. You know, it's part of the growing up process, you know.
It's expensive
They
in
made
New
a
York.
movie about that. Fair, you get a launch, you got to launch one day. And what about you, Mr. Gleason? What do you do for a living, sir?
Right now, I just signed up for the National Guard, Army National.
How old are you?
21.
Signed up for the National Guard.
Yes, ma'am.
Before you signed up for the National Guard, what were you doing to support yourself?
Nothing, really.
Who do you live with?
I live with my grandmother.
What does she do for a living?
She used to housekeep.
And what does she do now?
She gets a pension, I do believe, from a past job that she had.
So she gets a small pension and she was doing housework.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were just laying home and eating food, doing what, Mr. Gleason?
Hanging out, friends.
While your grandmother was collecting a pension and cleaning other people's homes. Is that what you're telling me? I just want to get a picture of you, sir.
Yes.
Okay, Miss Hendershot, tell me about the first loan.
When I first met him, he told me that...
When did you first meet him?
Mid-September.
Where?
Through a friend.
You mean somebody introduced you to him as a blind date?
Yeah.
Take that friend and cross them off the list. That person is not a friend to you. That person is his friend.
So we met mid-September, started dating. He told me his ex...
When you went out with him, where would you go?
Movies.
Who
something
paid?
to eat. Me or him.
Where'd you get money from?
I get a check in the mail from my parents.
For what?
They're both deceased, so I get a Social Security check from them, each of them.
Until you're how old?
I think it's on 25, I do believe.
How much do you get?
Around like $675. It like fluctuates.
A month?
Yes.
Even if you're over 21 years old?
Yes, ma'am.
And laying around your grandmother's house?
Yes.
This is some America. Okay, so sometimes you paid, sometimes he paid. You started dating and keep going.
Told me he had just quit his job.
What job did you have?
I worked at a Volkswagen dealer.
Doing what?
Off the books mechanic work, like filling up tires, making sure the cars were expected and all that.
And how much did they pay you off the books for that?
About like $20 a day.
$20 a day? Clearly on his way up the corporate ladder. Quit his job, putting air in tires for $20 a day, and... Go ahead.
He said he was in the military, so he was getting a check from that, but it was going into a bank account that he couldn't touch.
He was in the military?
That's what he told me.
Go ahead.
So he asked me if he can use my credit card for his cell phone bill. I said, okay.
Well, what was wrong with his credit card?
Well, he had bad credit because his ex-girlfriend had run up his credit cards while he was in Iraq, and now he has
When
bad
were you
credit.
in Iraq, sir?
Got me.
What?
Got me.
Okay, so you gave him your credit card to pay a cell phone bill, and what was he supposed to do? Pay you back?
Yeah, he was supposed to pay me back. I also authorized him to buy a TV for his car.
A TV for his car?
Granted that he would pay me right away.
Don't you feel like an idiot? But I guarantee you this, Mr. Gleason, if you don't feel like an idiot now, by the time you leave here, I'm hoping for better results.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not George Clooney, you know.
I've learned my lesson.
Why did you need a TV for your car?
I said I wanted one, and she offered to get it.
Well, who got it, you or she?
She got it, and she said, you have to pay it back. And then, around Christmas time, she's like, oh, it's just a present for you. You can have it for Christmas.
You know you're going to get penalized for some of your stupidity, don't you?
Oh, I know. I was naive and stupid. I know that, and I've learned my lesson.
All right. When you got the bill, how much was the bill from the credit card?
I have authorized and unauthorized charges in September and October.
You have the bill for September?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see it. Okay. Now let me see October statement. This is all his stuff?
Mm-hmm.
All of his stuff? What are you, out of your mind? What are you, out of your mind?
I guess so.
No, you're not. You're just a spoiled brat. Paid your credit card bill, paid your Sprint bill, you went to the drugstore, you filled up your car with gas, bought yourself a pair of shoes. Tiffany and Company?
He bought me my promise ring on my credit card.
Who bought jeans?
She wanted me to get jeans to go away to Florida to meet her parents.
You actually took him to meet your parents?
Yeah.
What'd they say?
We'll see.
Is that what they said to you? We'll see?
They said you're smart. I know you make the right decisions, and, you know, it's your relationship. You have to live it.
Now let's get to the close, Miss Hendershot. So after he didn't pay you back this and you saw that he was abusing your trust in October, you went out and you did something really stupid. You continued to see him. You continued to be involved with him. And in January of 2006, you do what?
I bought him suits for his new job. He was a salesman, so he needed suits. So I offered to buy him. He agreed. We went to the store, and we bought him together. And he lost a job a couple weeks later, started another job, lost that. I never saw a paycheck from the first job. He had an agreement that the paychecks would go to me for the suits.
I never agreed to taking the suits. I never even wanted the suits. She just wanted me to be some white-collar business guy. I mean, we would go to stores and she'd offer to buy them, and I was like, I don't want them. And she'll sit there and pick a fight with me, so I'll just let her do whatever she wanted.
What about this stuff, sir? These are your purchases. You had the card at that time.
The shoes are not my purchases, and only one guess is mine.
Take this over, please, Bird, to Mr. Gleason. Have him look at that and tell me what he acknowledges. You see, Mr. Gleason, listen to me very carefully, sir. It's clear to me that there was only one card, and that one card, I believe, was in your possession. Now, understanding that, you may go through that bill and tell me what's not yours, but be prepared to be grilled, Mr. Gleason. Grilled, sautéed, and poached.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're a user. You're using the federal government to support yourself. You're taking advantage of your grandmother, and you took advantage of this young lady. You are, Mr. Gleason, at this point in your life, a bum.
And later today...
Am I scaring you? Am I scaring you?
No.
That's too bad. I must try harder.
Nicole Hendershot claims ex-boyfriend Kevin Gleason racked up over $6,000 on her credit card.
All right. The things that you circled are yours or not yours?
Not mine. The thing that I checked is the one that she wanted me to go down to Florida with, the jeans. And
She can't wear your jeans, sir. What your statement is that these are all gifts. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Wrong. Did you tell him that the TV for his car was a gift Christmas time?
No. I said I'm going to pay it off since you don't have the money right now, but when you get a job, I'd like the money, because I didn't want it on my credit card balance.
Well, you can't have it on your credit card, otherwise you'll have credit like he did when he went to Iraq and his girlfriend racked up all those charges. She didn't make that up, did she? That you told her you had a girlfriend and that...
My ex did rack up my credit card.
When you were in Iraq? Huh?
No.
So you lied about that?
Yes.
When you lied to her about that, did you lie to her convincingly?
Kind of, because she wanted an image.
No, don't tell me what she wanted. I want you to tell me like you told her, just like you told her. I was in Iraq and my girlfriend maxed out my credit cards and so I have lousy credit. I want you to tell me exactly how you told that to her.
I said when I was...
Look at me. Like, because you looked at her in the eye, right?
Kind of.
Tell me what you said to her, just like I'm looking at you.
I said to her, my ex-girlfriend racked up my credit card while I was away in Iraq.
Did you tell her how you paid off the credit cards?
Oh, I still have them going on dispute.
Why do you have them going on dispute?
Because she took my credit card without my permission. I gave it to her one time to use to help her pay off her credit card.
Yes.
And then she took my credit card without me, like, physically handing it to her.
Right.
And then I started getting bills in the mail.
How'd you feel about that?
I mean, it hurt, but...
How badly did it hurt?
50%, I guess.
50%. If you had 100% of a brain, it probably would have hurt you 100%. Since you only have 50% of a brain, it only hurt you 50%. Now, when you got the first bill, did you confront your girlfriend?
At the time, I tried to confront her, but she kept hanging up.
Did you sue her?
No.
Did you call the police?
I filed a report on it.
You did? So you were really angry
Yes, ma'am.
because somebody took advantage of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody took your credit card, somebody who you trusted, your girlfriend, and racked up a whole bunch of bills and ruined your young credit, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what'd you feel? You had the right to do it to somebody else?
No.
Figure if a girl can do it to a guy can do it to a girl.
Yes.
Mr. Gleason, if I were your grandmother, your bag would be packed on the front porch by the time I got home. It's time you grew up because you're a user. You're using the federal government to support yourself when there's no reason for it. You look like an able-bodied, strong, well-nourished 21-year-old. You're taking advantage of your grandmother who's living on a small pension and cleaning other people's houses to take care of you. And you took advantage of this young lady who cared for you, wanted only the best for you. You are, Mr. Gleason, at this point in your life, a bum. The sooner you start correcting it, the sooner you're going to be not a bum. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He used me to make himself happy.
I was hurt pretty badly about what my ex did to me, so I thought maybe if I did to somebody else, they'll learn or I'll learn. I guess I learned.
I think he got what he deserved, and hopefully I'll make the right decisions next time.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mellinger versus Scott. Step forward, please.
Terry Mellinger is suing her son's former friend, 20-year-old Kenny Scott, for a loan for a motel room.
Is this your son?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
Just the one, sir, ma'am.
Doesn't he have long pants?
He does, Your Honor, but he just flew in from Tucson where he's working out in the field and he's staying in a motel, so he has limited access to clothes other than his work clothes.
Could you bring him a pair of long pants?
But I just...
I mean, he's not going to the beach.
I know, and I apologize.
Okay.
I just wasn't thinking.
Ms. Mellinger, this is your complaint. Mr. Scott is a friend of your son's. Are you wearing long pants?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, the two of them went off oil drilling something, got a job someplace, and they were rooming together. And according to you, you made a loan to Mr. Scott in the amount of $500 because he was short on cash. Stand up on your own 2 feet with your long pants, Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott says that you sent money, but you sent money at your son's request to your son. There was never an agreement by him to pay you back. That's your defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is your mother?
Yes, this is my mom, Charlotte.
Okay. Where did you go to work, Mr. Scott?
Well, at the time, we were stationed in Nevada, and then the following hitch, we were supposed to go down to Tucson.
And where is your home?
I live in Spokane, Washington.
How old are you?
20.
Were you paying your own way when you went to do this oil drilling?
Yes, I was.
You paid your own rent?
Not at home, no.
I'm talking about when you lived with him, when you were working. You were living together, correct, in a motel?
Correct.
Who was paying the bill?
He was.
Why?
Because I was unemployed before that, and we agreed that we would split the motel costs after I got paid, and I hadn't got paid until 2.5 weeks into the hitch.
Okay, and once you got paid, did you give him back the money?
No.
Why?
Well, because Mrs. Mellinger had came to me saying that she wired Dustin some money and that I was supposed to have been given it, so I owed her the $500, and I started to make payments, and...
Am I scaring you? Am I scaring you?
No.
That's too bad. I must try harder. Now, you went to live with Dustin and you had an agreement, and your agreement with Dustin was, quite reasonably, that you would go to this place where you could both work and make a good living, make some money, and that you would split the room. But you didn't have any money.
Right.
So what Dustin does is he calls his mother and says, Mom, Kenny doesn't have any money. So I'm going to need some money to tide us over.
We talked about this agreement before we even left town. I said, I'm going to be broke. I'm going to not have any food. I'm going to need some help. And? He didn't help me with food or anything. He just paid for the hotel room, gave me a place to sleep.
Who paid the rest of the money? Your mother?
My mom had wired me some money for
How
food.
much did your mother wire you? No, don't look at her. I'm asking you, how much did your mother wire you?
$200.
About $200. And I'm sure your mother has proof of that, right?
Yes.
Right?
I Western Union the money and tried to get the receipt from them, and we didn't have time to get that.
Baloney. How much was the motel room?
Well, the first one we stayed at was a little higher price.
How much was the hotel room?
It's about $25 a night.
And how many nights were you there?
The first one we were there
maybe about 4 or 5, and then we switched over because that hotel was run down.
Stand up. No, I can't stand to look at your knees. Over here. $25 a night. What was the second room?
Second room was the same. $25 a night, 25.
And how many nights in total were you there?
The second room?
Both rooms.
Both rooms.
Dustin?
Okay. The first hotel was about 5 days, and the second hotel about 21 days in the second hotel, something like that.
So you worked a total of 26 days?
Yes.
$650 plus tax, right? So it probably comes to close to $800. Did you, in fact, give Dustin back $400?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Why not?
Well, it was told to me that I owed his mother. I did not owe Dustin.
You owed somebody for half the motel room.
I realized that.
So my question is, why didn't you pay it to either Dustin or his mother?
I started to pay it to his mother.
You did?
She agreed that $100 a month would work, and I gave her $100
good.
cash.
Right.
And next thing I knew, I had a letter in the mail saying we're going to court.
Did he give you $100 in cash?
Yes, ma'am, he did give me $100 in cash.
Did you write 2 checks to Mrs. Mellinger
Yes, I did.
on an account that didn't have any money?
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't encourage him. When you have a debt in this world, you're supposed to repay it. You're not supposed to take money from strangers and then make them enemies by not paying them back. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
The quickest way to lose a friend is to loan them money. I want you to remember that forever.
Oh, well.
If you're a good guy and you lend somebody money, you lend a friend money, there's only one thing that I know for certain. You're going to lose that friend and you're going to be the bad guy. That's a lesson your mother should have learned a long time ago.
Your Honor, I've told Dustin that time and time again, but I am the guilty one here.
Well, you're the guilty one.
I
Because
didn't
here's
do
a
what I
young man
normally do.
who has a mother. If he needed money, he should have called his mother.
Right.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Retail worker Lamore Guberman is suing her ex-boyfriend, imaging consultant James Sutton, for his share of a cruise and for smashing her cell phone in a fit of anger.
Yeah, this is case number 399 on the calendar in the matter of Guberman versus Sutton. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
Miss Guberman, you and Mr. Sutton dated briefly, according to what I read in your complaint, and you no longer see each other socially, but you claim that he owes you for 2 things. First, he owes you for a cruise that the 2 of you went on. You claim that he was supposed to pay you back for his ticket, and he did not. And second, you say that you got into an argument with him and he smashed your cell phone.
Correct.
And who is this?
This is my friend, Monique.
Is this the friend who was supposed to go on the cruise?
No.
Does she know about the cruise?
Yeah.
Miss Guberman, when was the cruise and you were supposed to go with a girlfriend? Is that right?
Correct.
When were you supposed to leave?
The end of November, I think it was, of last year.
The questions are going to get harder. That's what this case is about. So let's try to get it together and focus. November of 2003. November what?
About November 17th, approximately. I forget the exact date.
And how long had you been planning this trip with a girlfriend?
Approximately a few months, maybe 3 months.
Who bought the tickets?
I charged it on my credit card.
Why didn't she charge her own ticket?
Oh no, well, we both paid a deposit, but then when she wasn't going...
Just a sec. You were supposed to go with a girlfriend, she backed out. You started to date him, and he went on the cruise instead of the girlfriend who got pregnant. That's the story, right?
Because I still want to
Okay, just a second. We're going to do this in faster pace because I have other things to do today, Miss Guberman. November 17th, 2003, you were supposed to go on a cruise with the girlfriend. She had put a deposit down on her own credit card?
Correct.
How much of a deposit did she put down?
$250.
And how much was the whole cruise?
$1,092 each.
Now, how much had she paid towards the trip?
The $250.
Only?
Only.
She was going to lose that. Is that right?
No, she didn't lose it. The cruise line, they credited her credit card back. And then they charged me the whole, the whole remaining balance for the cruise.
When did you make that arrangement with them? When did she make that arrangement, sir? She's having difficulty. Do you remember?
Well, actually, ma'am, first thing, good morning, ma'am. The cruise was November 30th, to tell you the truth. It wasn't November 17th. The cruise was November 30th. I met her in September. I spoke with her on the party line, which is a line that you chat with and you meet people.
I don't care if you met her on a party line or J dating.
Okay.
Mr. Sutton, when did she invite you to go on the trip?
Well, a week after, like a week and a half after we met.
In September.
Yes.
What did she tell you?
She told me her friend was supposed to go on a cruise with her, and she bailed out. So she asked me, she was looking for a companion to go with her. And once we met, you know, we engaged in some sexual relationships. And,
I'm not interested in that.
Okay, I understand. And she said to me, she said, would you like to go on a cruise? At first, I was kind of reluctant to going because we had just met. And then I was like, all right, fine. Then she says, well, I'm just going to charge it on my credit card. And we went on a cruise. Did you discuss paying her back for it? Not at all, ma'am, Your Honor.
Well, what happened after you went on this cruise on November 30th, sir?
We were still talking in a friendship manner. Then we pretty much, you know, kind of went our own separate ways at that time because we both made an agreement to be friends before we even went on a cruise.
Tell me about the agreement.
Actually, when we met on the party line, the same day
What? You said you had an agreement that you were going to be friends when you came back from the cruise. I don't know what
This is before the cruise.
That you were going to be friends?
Yes. She said we made an agreement that we just rather be friends at a relationship and not wouldn't work out.
And that was before you went on the cruise?
That was before we went on the cruise.
How much before?
2 months before.
Well, then why in the world would she pay for you?
I don't know.
I mean, that I don't understand. I mean, I can understand if she wanted you as her companion on the cruise and you had an intimate relationship and you were going to enjoy all of the activities together. Then I could understand her saying, listen, I want to have a date on this cruise. That's my insurance. But I don't understand it if the two of you really had parted ways in respect to being a boyfriend and a girlfriend and you were just going on as buddies.
Well, it wasn't pretty much still as buddies. It was pretty much both of us were still in the air. There was still some fire there. It was still in the air.
Some fire?
Yes.
Did you ever buy Miss Guberman anything?
Well, I gave her a bracelet once.
Did you? Was it a nice bracelet?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
You still have it, Miss Guberman? You're trying to think.
No, I have it. It's broken. He said he found it.
He found it?
I did.
I said, so did you ever buy her anything?
Yes, I did. I bought her several things.
Tell me.
Some stuff for her birthday from Victoria's Secrets, like T-shirts, lotion.
What else?
When we went on the cruise, I bought her a couple dresses.
Okay, that's nice. Did he do that?
Yes, but the lotion he bought me, he took back and wrote on my car with it. So, you know, I don't have the lotion and the perfume he bought for my birthday. He took it back.
Lamore Guberman says she met ex-boyfriend James Sutton on a party chat line. Lamore claims James owes for his share of a cruise and for smashing a cell phone.
When you came back from the cruise, when did you ask him for money?
Just whenever he had, I said, can I, you know, you pay me back when you have it. So he was making payments.
Did he give you any money?
Yes, $550 altogether.
Is that right, sir?
Not at all.
Show me.
He paid cash, but I just have, like I marked it on the calendar. So before going on the cruise, I think he gave me $100. And then on here, this is like where it's highlighted. I have how much he gave, all the payments that he gave me. So I would keep track of it.
I don't believe this. I don't believe it. There are several reasons why I don't believe it. First of all, I don't know anybody who uses the same pen on a day calendar. In order for you to use the same pen on a day calendar just for certain entries, you have to be a really organized person. You have several different pens for certain things. You have dark blue pen, you have a light blue pen, but for the money that you allege that he gave you, different weeks, different months, etc., you used the same pen. So you had a Mr. Sutton return of money pen?
No, actually, I kept a particular pen by my calendar. And if, for instance, like if I had made an appointment on the phone or something and there was a pen somewhere else in the house, I would take that and write the appointment down. But that, I mean, I have similar pens, it's different, same color.
Give this back to her. Those calendars come under the category of baloney, Miss Guberman. Now you want to get to the cell phone?
Well, we had gotten into an argument on the way back from the mall.
When?
In October,
October of what year?
This year.
2004?
Correct.
So you were still seeing each other, had contact with each other a year later?
Correct.
Okay.
And actually, when we officially broke up, that's when he stopped paying for the cruise, but...
What happened, Miss Guberman, in October with
we
your
were on the way back
phone?
from the mall, and we were going to go to my house, and then we got into an argument at the mall. On the way back, you know, he said, take me home. So I was proceeding to take him home, and then he asked me, oh, well, we're going to your house. I said, no, you want to go home? I'm taking you home. So when he realized I was taking him home, I had to stop at a stop sign, and as soon as I stopped at the stop sign, he grabbed my shifter, threw it in park, got out the car, grabbed the phone, smashed it on the ground, and then walked off and left me with a broken shifter, and I was just standing there until someone came and helped put my shifter back together because I couldn't move.
Let's hear it.
All I can say is just a bunch of Taurus species.
Should what?
Taurus species.
What is that?
A Taurus is a bull and species is...
Oh. Mr. Sutton. Mr. Sutton.
Yes.
Just tell me what happened, sir. Try not to editorialize or
Okay,
be witty.
pretty much.
Or, listen to me, or be witty or be smart. I reserve that all to myself.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, man, Your Honor.
Just tell me what happened in the car.
Well, nothing happened because I wasn't with her.
Oh, my God. Were you still involved in any kind of a relationship, including friends, in October of 2004?
No, I wouldn't even talk to her. She was coming down to my job, stalking me, sitting in my parking lot at my job. She would call me, like, pretty much all day on my cell phone, beat my cell phone up, leave all types of messages.
You have any proof of that?
Well, I can't really save that on there, ma'am. Somebody else calls me.
Do you know anything about this case?
Yes, I do.
Step up. Who are you?
I'm Monique Taylor. I'm Lamore's friend of 14 years.
Go ahead.
The night of her cell phone that was broken, he was with her. Because, you know, she doesn't hold anything back from me, and usually when things happen, she calls me because we're close friends. And he was with her that night that the cell phone was broken.
What was she doing with him?
Your Honor,
No, I'm asking you, what would she do? If she tells you wherever she doesn't, listen to me. If she doesn't hold anything back from you,
right?
What was she doing with him?
I guess just hanging out with him. You know, they went to the mall together, from my understanding, and you know, he wanted to go home with her, and he was told no. And
why did she go to the mall with him?
He's very angry.
Who's angry?
James. He's a very angry individual because there's times other things has happened, and she has called me about it and, you know, talked to me, and I always be telling her to leave him alone, but
she doesn't leave him alone. Right?
Right.
She calls him?
Occasionally, but not. It's been like since the cell phone incident, it hasn't been too many phone calls.
Before the cell phone incident?
Yes.
She'd call him a lot?
I wouldn't say a lot, because I would, you know, try to convince her not to keep continuously calling him and, you know, just leave it alone.
But she didn't listen?
No, she didn't.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I understand that from your perception as a father, your daughter disrespected you.
Right.
I agree with you. Did the wrong thing.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lamore Guberman says she met ex-boyfriend James Sutton on a party chat line. Lamore claims James owes for his share of a cruise and for smashing a cell phone.
So, Mr. Sutton, I sort of believe that you were in the car with her and broke her cell phone. You want to know why I believe that, Mr. Sutton? I believe that you were really annoyed that she keeps bothering you on the phone. There's a logical extension to breaking her phone. Do you understand?
I understand what you're saying, but...
Good. How much was your phone?
Altogether, it was $194.99.
Let me see. But, Mr. Sutton, I do not believe, sir, that you agreed to pay her for this cruise. I think that she met you, she wanted a date on the cruise, she invited you to go along, and there was absolutely no mention of you paying her back. And that was over a year ago. And you still didn't pay her back. And she's still with you, in the car, going to the mall. Right?
Right, that's part of the reason why I would call him, is to ask, can you pay me some money? Are you going to give me some money?
No.
Pardon God.
No, not for somebody who's violent. You don't call somebody violent for that reason.
Because it was on my credit card. And
You met him in September. You invited him to go on a cruise in September. Mr. Sutton doesn't look like the kind of person who becomes instantly infatuated.
Oh, that's a lie.
Well, maybe yes, maybe no. He certainly seems like a cool enough character to me. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $194.99. That's for the cell phone. The cruise, you're on your own. That's
Can I say
all.
one thing?
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Oh my God, I didn't finish. I guess if I get back together with him, he'll pay me the rest of it, then we can break up, you know, something like that.
She's a very sarcastic person. You know, she doesn't know how to take anything serious.
The sparks were kind of fizzling at the end, but he was trying to make the sparks come back.
She just got hypnotized by me. That's all that was.
He was a bad seed once I just knew the things he was doing.
What was done. I mean, just move on, that's all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Garnica versus DeLaza, step forward, please.
Deli manager Martha Garnica is suing her ex-husband, produce manager Alan DeLaza, for the money he promised to pay for their daughter's 2000 Ford Mustang. Alan says their daughter disrespected him, so the deal's off.
Ms. Garnica, this is your former husband. You
Yes,
have
it
two
is.
children together.
We do.
You called your former husband and told him that you wanted to buy your daughter, I assume this young lady's, pretty young lady, a car for her birthday, and asked him if he would contribute to the car. So far, is that correct, sir?
Close enough.
Close enough. And your former husband agreed to give you $2,000 towards the purchase of that car, $1,000 from one fund and $1,000 from a different fund. Close enough?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah.
He gave you the $1,000.
Yes.
The $1,000.
Yes.
In reliance on his promise to give you the $2,000, you went out and purchased your daughter a car.
Yes, I did.
How much was the car?
$5,000.
And you purchased her this $5,000 car because your former husband had agreed, made a contract, so far, right, to give you $2,000. And then, against his wishes, this young lady went ahead and got your permission to have a belly piercing, right?
Kind of.
Right. She had discussed it at one time with her father, who said, I don't want you to do that, right? And you went and did it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is stupid to begin with. Why anybody would want to pierce their belly button, I haven't a clue. Get stuck on your sweaters. I don't know why anybody would want to do that. But that's just an older person's perception of why young people pierce their bodies and say, look at me, look at me, look at me, I'm different. You know, people should look at you because you do things that are creative, intelligent, smart. You've made something of yourself. You know, sticking things in your body doesn't cut it for me. Your father says you got your belly pierced, you don't get the other $1,000.
Right.
Unfortunately, you're wrong. You're not wrong to feel as if your daughter did something that was not right, but your contract was not with your daughter.
Yes, it was.
No, no, no. Your contract was not with your daughter, sir. Your contract was with your former wife. You may have been contributing to buy your daughter a gift, which is what you say. I was buying my daughter a gift. She went against my wishes. I'm not going to give her the gift. You made a contract with your wife because once she went out to purchase that car, relying on your promise to give her $2,000, you had a binding agreement. Now, I'm teaching you contracts. I'm giving you a basic course in contracts. If you had said to her when she called you, I will give you the $2,000 towards Amanda's car, but there's a condition. And the condition is she not have a body piercing until she's old enough to consent to it herself. If you had said that to her, and if she had had the body piercing, you would be absolutely right. You would be able to say, she breached the agreement, therefore I don't have to pay. But you did not have that as a condition of your contract with your former wife. Do you understand? Now, do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
It's just...
I understand that from your perception as a father, your daughter disrespected you.
Right.
And you don't reward somebody for being disrespectful and
Those
for
were
doing
my
the wrong
intentions.
thing. I agree with you. Did the wrong thing. But that doesn't vitiate the contract that you had or do away with the contract that you had with your former wife. Do you understand? So while I'm sympathetic to you, you owe her $1,000. Pay her. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
19-year-old Joshua Benson is suing his aunt, Michelle Benson, for stealing money allocated for his college tuition.
Quiet in the courtroom. All rise. Hello. Now, this is case number 54 on the calendar in the matter of Benson versus Benson. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
What's your first name, Mr. Benson?
Joshua.
Joshua, this is your aunt and your adoptive mother.
Correct.
She is your mother's sister?
Correct.
According to your complaint, you went to live with her on a full-time basis when you were around 15 years old?
Actually, it was 13.
And you lived with her until you left for college?
No, actually, Your Honor, I'm still in high school. I moved out April of last year when I turned 18 to finish my senior year.
Your claim is that while you were living with Miss Benson, you were working.
Correct.
And you had an agreement with her that you would turn over part of your paycheck to her, that she would save for you for college. She would open up an account and she would save that money for you. And it is your claim that she did not do that.
Correct.
She used that money for herself, and you want that money. You're getting ready to go to school and you want that money.
Correct, Your Honor.
Miss Benson says that you did, in fact, contribute to the household. You worked, you gave her some money. That money was a contribution for things for the household and some of your own expenses, and there was never any agreement to put the money away for you for college. That's your defense, is that right?
Correct.
All right, let's turn back the clock a bit. What kind of work were you doing?
My first job was at Tanner's Steakhouse in Andover.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was a dishwasher. I worked Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays.
And when did you have this discussion with Miss Benson about saving for college?
It had always been a thing when I started looking for a job. It was always said that if I got a job, half my paychecks would be put into savings for a college savings
And what'd you do with the other half?
And the other half was for me to do whatever I wanted with.
Spending money.
Exactly.
And how do you know how much money you gave her over the years?
I have the checks from when I opened up my checking account when I was 16. It was a joint checking account with her and myself. I have the checks that I wrote out to her specifically. In the memo, it said 529 plan or college savings, which are right here.
May I
yes.
see them, please?
When I wrote the checks out to her, she was supposed to take them, deposit them into her checking account, and then she was to take them out of her checking account and put them into the 529 plan, which was supposed to be through T. Rowe Price.
Your Honor.
I didn't ask you anything. Sit down. You're his mother?
Yes.
Didn't ask you anything. You have some checks and some bank statements.
Yeah, all of them have bank statements, and I've stapled the checks that go according to the bank statements.
Okay. So, Joshua, what happened when you turned 18?
I turned 18 January 27th of 05. I lived with her until April of 05. In April of 05, I got another job up by my mom's, and I moved back in with my mom. I finished out my junior year.
Even though her parental rights have been terminated?
Correct.
You have brothers and sisters, Joshua?
I have one.
How old?
He is 9.
Who does he live with?
He lives with my mom.
Has he always lived with your mother?
Correct.
Is there any reason why you went to live with your aunt when you were 13?
My mom had me when she was very young, and we never really got along. And therefore, I had been in the system for a while. And
You mean in foster care?
Correct. I had been in 3 different foster homes.
Starting at age what? Put your hand down.
I was rather young. I was about 5 or 6. I went into my first foster home, and then I went and moved back in with my mom. And then I went into a different one, which she put me in. The first foster home, my mom did not. It was my other aunt. My mom had just had back surgery and all that.
Okay. Then you went into yet another foster home.
Correct.
How long did you stay there?
I stayed there 2 years, and then I moved back in with my mom again. And then the last time that I went into foster care, that was when the parental rights got terminated and I was adopted.
Okay, but when you went back into foster care, how old were you when you went to live with your aunt initially?
I was going on my 14th birthday.
Yes.
He actually was 12. He came to live with me when he was 12. The last time he went into foster care, he was 10 years old. And I actually have documentation here. Thought I would bring for your benefit.
Just a second.
Okay.
Put it down. I know the way the system works.
Actually, Your Honor, I was 13 because I did celebrate my 13th birthday at my last foster home and had a birthday party.
Okay. At what age were you when you were formally adopted?
I do believe I was 15.
Is that right?
No.
How old was he?
Well, it was 2002, and so he would have been 14.
So he lived with you for a year in foster care.
That's why I was raising my hand, because the last time he went into foster care, he was 10, because his baby brother, half biological baby brother, was born, and that's when Cheryl gave him up for the last time.
Listen to me very carefully. According to you, he came to live with you when he was 12. According to him, he was 13. But he lived with you as a foster child for at least a year before he was adopted. So just listen, put on the listening ears. And while he was living with you when he was 13, until the time he was adopted, you were getting a subsidy for him. How much?
Wow, you know, to be honest with you, I don't remember.
Maybe Joshua remembers. How much was
If
she
I
receiving?
remember correctly, I was told it was about $1,200 a month. And Your Honor,
Now, just a second. I'm not finished. When your sister's parental rights were terminated and Joshua was adopted, you continued to receive a subsidy for him.
Yes, I did.
Because that's what we call in this country a subsidized adoption. Something very few people know about, but fortunately I know about it. And $1,200 appears to be right because Joshua was probably at that point a hard-to-place child. And so you accepted him into your home. You received $1,200 a month, and that was continued after the adoption became final. So it's not as if Joshua had to provide for his own room, board, etc., because you were receiving money from the government for that purpose. Put your hand down, Joshua. I'm about to come to your aunt.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What happened to his money?
It was spent on him.
You can't do that. You had absolutely no right to spend the money on him. None.
And later today,
I don't want it to be breaking in my pen.
Then somehow you're going to have to secure the pen even better than it's secured.
It keeps my dog in.
Maybe not.
I mean, I'm not a liar.
Joshua Benson claims his aunt, Michelle Benson, stole his college tuition money. Michelle says the money went toward Joshua's living expenses.
Okay. What happened to his money?
It was spent on him.
You can't do that. That's what the state paid you for.
To not spend the money on him?
The state paid you to take care of him. All of his checks, which were written in different ink, indicate the memo portion of the checks that it was to be put in a 529 plan. That's an educational plan. And you had absolutely no right to spend the money on him. None. That's what you were paid for by the government. You get it?
Yes.
Good.
Your Honor, can I add something to that?
Does it sound like you're losing, Joshua?
No.
I mean, I get it. Unfortunately, the public doesn't get it. The public believes, well, then this was an act of goodwill. Your aunt took you in. She supported you. I'm speaking. Put a roof over your head, food on the table. So if you were working, helping to defray your own costs, what's wrong with that? But the truth is, the citizens of this country were supporting you by giving your aunt money before and after she adopted you. And after you moved out, I assume that money stopped, although I'm not exactly sure because the money very often goes until age 21 unless somebody notifies them that that money's supposed to stop. Do you know if the money stopped?
Actually, not only was she receiving the adoption assistance, she was also receiving Social Security for me in the amount of $563. And I did not find this out until I moved out in April and I received a check in the mail from the Social Security Administration. And then I called them and was like, well, when did I start getting this? And they told me in 2002, you started receiving this. Well, when I turned 18, they informed me they started coming in my name. I was not aware of the fact that I was ever receiving this.
I got it. What do you want to say?
I want to say that when I was receiving adoption assistance for him was after the fact, and that only went until I was able to claim him as a dependent, and he is a very spendy...
Just a second. The adoption subsidy stopped when, Ms. Benson?
Oh my gosh, the adoption assistance only went for like a year or two. You could check with the state on that. It was not very...
Listen to me. A year or two. And the Social Security?
Started when I applied for Social Security, and it was legal for me to claim him because he was not...
Why did you apply to Social Security?
Because I have MS. I have a disability. I only work part-time.
So you applied for Social Security disability for yourself, and he is a dependent child. Is that right?
Right.
This is some America. This is some system. You owe him $4,660. Pay it. Good luck, Joshua.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may
Taught
step
him
out.
nothing. Joshua is living in the household of his biological mother, who terminated her parental rights but yet kept a baby. I don't know, you do the math on that one.
I think it's just bitterness. The fact that, you know, I've moved back with my mom and now I have nothing to do with her.
I think Michelle likes to make me out to be the worst person in the world. It's not me trying to, you know, say, oh, she's a terrible person and, you know, trying to make an opinion about something. It's not an opinion, it's a fact.
I've tried reconnecting and I always get hurt in the end and it's just not worth it to me anymore.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kasparian versus Felton. Step forward, please.
Grace Kasparian is suing her neighbors, Greg and Amanda Felton, for breeding fees, vet bills, and the cost of a DNA test for her German Shepherd, Goody.
Ms. Kasparian, this is a rather interesting lawsuit. You and the defendant are neighbors.
Not immediate neighbors, but down the road a ways.
And you have large parcels of property. How many acres are you on?
A little under 12.
And you?
Just under 6.
You have a beautiful German Shepherd.
Thank you. She's a real good girl. Her name is Goody.
And you have a
yellow lab.
It is your claim, Ms. Kasparian, that your dog, who you have bred in the past and whose litters you have sold, was in heat, and somehow the Felton's dog got off their property, came onto your property, and mated with Goody?
Yes.
Goody, that's you.
If you call her much more, she'll be over there.
She'll be over there.
No, she won't.
She's got a wonderful face. Anyway, Goody had a litter of puppies, and DNA tests were done.
Yes.
And it was established that you two are almost related. You claim that because of that you had financial losses, and you want the Feltons to be responsible for those losses. So I assume that you gave away the puppies?
Actually, there was 2 break-ins, but the first one is what the lawsuit is all about. I did sell the puppy. I had 2 black puppies, and my contract calls for that I could have, that I would get 3 live puppies. So
what are you talking about?
I have a contract here that I had her bred to with the Sable up in Washington.
Okay, so you had losses because you could have sold the puppies for more money.
What happened was...
Your dog had a litter of puppies. How many?
2 black puppies. And I had them advertised as high-end European working dog backgrounds.
Okay, and it turned out... Shh, listen to me. We're going to cut to the chase here because I have other cases to do.
Okay.
Turned out that their dog fathered that litter?
Yes.
And you established that, and they concede that because DNA tests were done. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
But your defense is that you don't know whether your dog went on their property or her dog came on your property.
Correct.
We have no record of Koa ever running off the first time.
When was the first time she delivered puppies that were not purebred?
May.
May of 2005. Okay. And there is a 63, because I have a little knowledge of this, there's a 63-day gestation period. Is that right?
I had her bred on about the 17th of February, and it was 67 days from the date of her last breeding.
What proof do you have that their dog, during that time, on or around mid to late February, was on your property and impregnated your dog?
Well, my dog was never out of her pen.
She never ran free?
No.
No, she does. When I run the loop, we have a 3-mile around loop, and when I run the loop, my dogs are always on leashes. Her dog has come out and chased mine and scared mine to where I have to pull them along, so her dog is loose.
Not when she was in season. Never when she was in season was she out running loose. She was always confined, always penned up. But when she's not in season, and of course,
when did you see her dog out loose?
Regularly when I run.
We have a horse and she runs with, you know, she's outside. But never, Judge Judy, when she was being bred, did she ever was out of her pen.
Miss Kasparian, if she was never out of her pen, somehow their dog got into the pen.
Correct.
Is that right? How did their dog get into the pen?
Their dog gets out of a 6-foot chain link pen.
Just listen to me. Pen, chain link, correct? How did their dog, did it go over the pen? Did it burrow under the pen?
I have copies of my fence, and I think what happened was it might have went in, jumped in the back, and went up on the doghouse and got in. This is not the first time he's jumped in people's pens.
Listen to me. There's a lot of speculation, Ms. Kasparian. My problem with your complaint is that one way or another, either your dog got out of the pen or their dog got into the pen. And without proof, Ms. Kasparian, of which way it was, you can't surmise that their dog got in.
But it did.
Ms.
It
Kasparian,
did get in. My dog was never out, and it was notorious for breaking in pens. It broke out of his to get into mine.
No, he didn't.
He was
Just a second.
ferocious.
We don't know that, Ms. Kasparian. You don't know how their dog got into your pen. Could have jumped over, jumped on a doghouse, jumped over the fence. Your dog could have jumped on the doghouse and jumped over the fence. Could have burrowed under the fence. Your dog could have burrowed under the fence. I'm not saying to you that's how it happened, but I'm saying to you we're in a court.
I know, but I'm telling you as a honest and swore to tell the truth that my dog was never out.
टेंशन सारी ही खड़ी की तो खुश है वक्त मैं असल का लसे समझ लेंगे कि मैं दो वाली में पता लग रही हाँ दे मामा थेवा मेरा डे कोई वो बने ना बेटा मां दुआ करे थेवा खड़ भी है मेरा मैं कूदे चैनल करता है कूदे मां बा मैं ना दरे ले योदा मां एक दा सारा थेवा चाहिए योदा मां मामा यो एक थेवा ही ना पावे या क्या पावे दस ना पावे क्या करा मैं लिया दस यो छोड़े मैं कूदे कोई थेवे शेवे बाबा कहानी बाबा जो अजाना मिले तू मगवा तक मैं वो थेवारी में जरा रात दा झड़का रहे ने वो ए इमे तेरी अंगली हाथ जिदा है वो कौन मंडी का असा दा रिचार्ज दे बोला ये हाल मेरा थेवा डे गए भराने यार भराने नहीं दे मैं को दूसरा मिनट दी भराने नहीं सारी रात ही यो काम करेंदा रहे मेरा मामा मेहनत मारी पिया मेहनत कोई रंग लै दिए ता मुर्शिद को आखे मियां जो एक्ट कर उइंदा बोला रात दा 12 बजे दा मैं कुएं जगवे नहीं रात सारी 12 तक जागदा प्यारा ना मैं किवें मैं मामा हुन एक छे मामा कहे जवाल वियां एक जी ने आ क्या आदा मैं ये या मुर्शिद को नहीं ना भी नाल किदे दे मुल्तान ना सवेरे फाते तो मुल्तान सवेरे फाते ना तब पता नहीं सवेरे एक ही ना जुले का मुर्शिद मैं ते जानू जुल्फों पे इकट्ठे क्या है रोवी जानू जुले थे ना जुल्फों पे क्या है सवेरे ना है रोवी जुना मुल्तान है चढ़ना घोड़ी दे वाला पूछना क्या है केड़ी अपने सा ये बना मौके ते ना थी मैं कोई खाते मामा जोल मेरे करते है सही ठीक है मुर्शिद नहीं मैं को ना थी भी तो मैं पहले आ रहा बोला गाड़ी को आ गया खड़े में को के मामा जोल मेरे इकट्ठे जो मुझे नहीं दूंगा पीछे मैं कल आ गया निवेदन आना बरात पूरी हुई है मेरे इकट्ठे जानू वो से मैं होता ये एक को पकड़े हां होटल ते जो मामा जो पीछे पास प्याला होटल ते पास प्रोग्राम आटा देती भी नहीं करा जो जेम कोई नहीं करेगा है सही बात स्वीकार ठीक वो करी आज जी में पहले वो कनेक्ट की दावी में करी वाला 12 बजे जानू नहीं ना चौकी 4 तक वहां पे होए मेरा यार चार्जर रहेगा डट्टू चला के देने मेरा चार्जर उन्हें चला के देने एक वो चार्जर ये नहीं ठीक है ना पीछे गेट फोन करेगी वो डट्टू चार्जर काम दा जरा मैं ਲਈ प्यारा नाम ही बड़ा जैन वन चार्जर आ मेरा बाहर चार्ज करे वो ये चाहिए पे मैंने क्या कोई नहीं चाहिए आया को बीमारी पई होती कहीं बीमारी पूरी तार चाह की ये नेले तो ठीक है चार गल वो कर तो ठीक है ने उन्हें कार पर्चा ढेर वाला का क्रॉस लाइन था पर ओके ठीक है मैंने ये चला है ट्राई ठीक है चौथा में नहीं आया यही के काशी फरार है वो ये पुलिस है यही में टूटा पुलिस है वहां पे आ गए द फैला गए होंगे 300 रूपये ने लगा पे आज चली खड़ी पे ऊपर वो शायद रात की बारी की कर ली फोन मारे में चला कि हम बता ना नहीं जाऊंगी क्या आता तो हूं आदे करे छु मैं गया अल्लाह दा बंदा मैं एक ने अपनी चीज दे kan गोश वाला लोग को आदे तू सारा डी माने चिर सवेरे दा बंदा यो करे ने यार मैं खा भी डमू अमजद में को आगे कहे